two or three scenes at least where she'll say something like, yes, this reminds me of classic literary work, da 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 da, and I think this, and they're like, you read? But you're so hot! How?
You're a nerd.
Yeah, basically.
Grab some popcorn and stick around. We've got some garbage to talk about.
Hi, Rogue.
Hey, Zach.
So, you heard about the new Marilyn Monroe movie, Blonde?
I had not heard of it until you told me about it.
Alright, well, I watched it. It's on Netflix, at least at time of recording. But it's kind of controversial for a few reasons.
Okay.
I'll just dive right into those. It's like...
Okay, before you start, I want
yeah.
to give what my perception when you say a Marilyn Monroe movie made in the good year, or released in the good year of 2022. My expectation is that it's portraying her in a positive light as a woman who, because this is how I feel like she's kind of viewed now, especially by younger maybe not like Gen X and above, but like the younger generations. I think that she's viewed as a woman who took control of her sexuality when that was not something that was really socially acceptable at the time, but she's an icon.
I would agree. I would agree that is also how I view Marilyn Monroe.
Okay.
One more question. If it's based off of a novel that was written in 1999.
Okay. Oh, okay. So it's not that at all.
Not at all. Okay. Before we start, I would say I'd somewhere between, like, Victim, the movie, or Daddy Issues, the movie. And I will get into my issues with that, because I do agree with you that I feel like, honestly, not even what you said, even less than that. I would say more than that, what this movie misses is that Marilyn Monroe is a human being. At least was, until she died. But this movie doesn't... Okay. Let me just say what the controversial things of this movie are. It's got an NC-17 rating.
Oh, yikes.
And because I was watching it, and I was thinking, like... So, trigger warning for these scenes that exist in the movie.
Okay. We already said it was NC-17, so... Yeah,
I guess I don't know how else to prepare for that, but she gets 2 procedures forced upon her that terminate pregnancies.
Yikes.
Yeah. There's also the way that they portray it both times is they feel like, and like, I wasn't particularly bothered by this, but I don't know if it's the procedures themselves that got the warning, or because they show kind of like through the vagina.
What?
So they like...
Excuse me?
So for the first one, you kind of just see it's very, like... There's like this episode of the Chappelle Show where he's like born, and you kind of just see like a brown flap, and then his head pops through it. So... like, that's like supposed to be like funny, but this is like the same thing where we're seeing, like, you know, like when you get like a pap smear, how they kind of like open you up with that thing.
Why was that the choice?
Not half sphere.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So they use that, and then for the first one, we see that happening, but we don't see, like, lips, or it's not like we're just looking at the actress Anna de Olmos's vagina or something like that. I mean, maybe, I don't think so. But
why was that the creative choice for this? That's so unnecessary. That's not...
So, yeah, and then that one, I was like, I mean, well, yeah, I get, it probably wasn't a real vagina for either, but for sure not for the second one, because for that one, they felt that it would be better if we were inside Marilyn Monroe, and so he was showing Pop the scenes, and when they opened her up, my first thought was like, oh, peekaboo, because you can see the doctor's eye.
That's so weird. It comes across as something that would be in, like, a satirical movie or something.
Yeah, and I feel like the movie desperately wants to say something, except the message is very dated. Like, so the book was written by, I might be mixing up her names, but I want to say Joyce Carol Oates or Carol Joyce Oates.
I think you were right the first time.
Okay. Well, it's weird. I don't know. Some of the I read, like, a lot of articles. Well, not really a lot. But for one day, I read more about Marilyn Monroe today than, like, in my whole life. But I don't want to oversell that. But the few things I've seen is, like, the book is more nuanced, I guess. And, like, the director of this movie was like, I just wanted to go for, like, the feelings. And I was like, okay, well, if this is how the book made you feel, I don't want to read it. So,
also, does this movie say that it's a documentary?
No.
Oh, well, that's good.
Yeah, it's a fictional portrait of Marilyn Monroe, but I feel like that's more disrespectful.
Yeah, because you're just... That's so weird.
Because, like, I was reading a little bit about the book, but I couldn't, the writer of Blonde defends the movie.
Of course she does.
It's not, yeah. Because, like, I was thinking, like, maybe she did, because, like, you know, the Mary Poppins writer didn't stand by the Disney flick.
Yeah.
So I was thinking, maybe it's that kind of a deal, but no, she was fine with it. She also read that apparently when she originally wrote the book, she was thinking it'd be like 175-page novella kind of deal. Mm-hmm. And then she was just like, but once I was in her world, I couldn't stop writing. So it's like over 700 pages.
Jeez.
Of Marilyn Monroe fan fiction.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't know. It's because there's like some. Although, also, before, I get into the other stuff of the movie, because these procedures are going to come up.
Okay.
They're in real life, mm-hmm. It's documented that she had, like, a few miscarriages, an ectopic pregnancy, and so... But as far as, like, the other procedures, there's no record of them. Apparently some, quote-unquote, I'll say, friends of Marilyn Monroe said she'd had, like, dozens, and some were backdoor. And I'm like, I don't... Maybe not, but I doubt it, because I'm just thinking, like... I don't know. It just doesn't really seem like the kind of deal.
I feel like that would be more well known about her if that were true at this point.
Yeah, Yeah, I just don't know how that, like, how she just found some people who were, like, really cool about keeping quiet about it. Like, every time.
Like, there were so many scandals that she may or may not have been involved in, that why would that be the one that stayed quiet for 50 years? Yeah, because, like, so, you know, but then there's that. Okay. So, the movie, it's very strange because the movie's... I don't know what the movie feels was her, let's say, initial incident. Because the director is like, I wanted to explore, like, what happens to a child shapes who they are as an adult. Okay, that's not exploring. Oh my gosh. Movie, that's so frustrating for me because, like, yes, that's very well known. What are you talking about? Explore it. That's been explored so many times. That's like literally any movie. Have you ever seen a...
You're probably wondering how I got here. Yeah. I was bored.
Or it's like... it's like, oh, why is this character so tragic? Oh, because they have a tragic backstory.
Well, it's so weird because, like, reading up on her, I'll just open with this. She's, like, pretty dope. There was, like, she did speak up about, like, a casting couch situation when she first started. And then once she was big enough, she would, like, publicly said that. Like, she Me Too'd herself. And then... she renegotiated her contract with Fox because she was like, you guys were bad to me and I deserved more money and creative control over my roles. See? And she even went so far as to start making her own production company, and then they were like, okay, we'll give you what you want. And I was like, yeah, like a boss.
Yeah, this is why she's an icon. Never gets talked about.
No, just she's really pretty, but it's very strange to me because I think just because we're in, 2022 and all, I was like, we understand that she couldn't have just been hot, right?
Yeah,
because there's so many hot people that we don't talk about to this day in the same way. But this movie disagrees,
apparently,
frankly. So, okay, I don't know what her initial incident was supposed to be that formed her into the tragic victim she grew up to be, according to this film, because she grew it starts off, they want it to be that she doesn't have a father.
Great, love
but
that.
It starts... Yeah, it's so... first of all, like... I don't... Because, like, then, just to clarify, she did look into her father. But it nothing hints that it, like, was her whole everything. Especially for, like, the cruel things that happened in this movie. I'm just like, I don't know if she'd have been this pressed about all this. She had other stuff going on. But anyway, it starts off with her mother who, in real life, gets diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia. I don't know if they formally did that in the beginning, but basically, her real mother did, so she couldn't take care of her anymore. In the movie, they show this drowning scene that there's no evidence of having happened.
Great.
Because mentally ill mothers and all just always try to kill the kid immediately. There's this scene, and, like, she shows her this picture of this, like, I don't know if it's supposed to be Clark Gable as, like, a reference to how she sort of mentioned in, like, an interview before that she always sort of thought, like, when she was a kid, she was like, oh, I think it'd be cool if Clark Gable was my dad, or at least looked like him. I don't know if that's who's on the picture of the wall, but the mom's just like, there's your father. And then drives her down, like, Sunset Boulevard or something, but there's, like, a bunch of fires going on. And the police are like, man, you gotta go. And she's like, no. And then she goes home.
Oh.
Shortly after that, she can't take care of Marilyn or Norma Jean anymore. Her real name, for those of you who don't know. But if you saw the movie, then you'll know because they keep saying it. Then it's so weird too because like everyone growing up. So Sarah Paxton plays like her aunt and like this woman who sort of like oversaw her life, but Marilyn Monroe runs to their house and is like, help, my mom's sick, and like that, something like that could have happened, I guess, that led to like, you know, her mom getting help or treatment, but you know, whatever. Then for whatever reason, this woman's husband like hates that Marilyn Monroe exists as a child. I don't know, because he's just like glaring at her, and then Sarah Paxton takes her to an orphanage and she's like, no, I'm not an orphan, I have a father, don't let me go. And then like Sarah Paxton has to like drag her while her husband smokes a cigarette in the car, like, yes, I love when children suffer. Like, I don't know. Okay, so then now she's an adult, and we see, you know, her casting couch situation, because she goes and she reads this thing, and I'm like, sure, see, it sounds fine. I will say, before I get further, I did mention it, but I think does do a really good job as far as being Marilyn Monroe. Like, she really does look a lot like her. It's interesting hearing her sound like it. They do like reenactments from the movie, and she like kind of sings and talks like her.
That's good.
But it's weird though, because the movie seems to think that like Marilyn Monroe's character in like one movie was like how she was in real life, and I'm just thinking, like, just from the few interviews of Marilyn Monroe I heard today, I'm like, she didn't talk like that all the time.
Yeah, I mean that's the kind of thing where I'm like, I don't know, like, I think we're past viewing Marilyn Monroe in this light.
Yeah, and it's weird because it's like they definitely don't think she's a bimbo, which I feel like is worse. Because like if she was like this fun time slut who was happy to do it, then it's like, okay, that's still not accurate to Marilyn Monroe, but at least there's some like agency in her life,
right?
So like maybe that'd be like slightly better, but this movie is like, no. So she's doing her reading, and then the guy's like, great, tosses the thing, immediately starts with a sexual assault.
Oh no.
It's so abrupt. And then later when she's with Joe DiMaggio, although in the book apparently they don't name anybody, except they do name Charlie Chaplin's son and the other guy he was friends with. But they don't name Joe DiMaggio or Arthur Miller. I don't know why. Maybe because they would have sued because they were still alive in 99. I don't think Arthur Miller was. Either way. So, that happens. Anyway, she like blows up and she becomes Marilyn Monroe. And she's being like carted from place to place. Now, she did have stage fright, and she was kind of like, it's like a known thing, she was like late to shoots, but she was never like a diva or anything. And they don't really show her being a diva in the beginning of the movie, but they just sort of show her being like whisked away, and they don't really talk about like her desire to act, because the whole time I'm watching this without the supplemental things I looked into after the fact, it's like hun, why is this the career for you? Because she's like so against it from the jump. She hates all of it.
Weird.
She's like, they just want Marilyn. They don't want Norma Jean. I'm Norma Jean. Why can't they see that anymore? And it's like, I mean, I don't know, hun. But that, again, not the real vibe, which I feel like goes without saying. So, big thing that happens to her first in this is she gets into this throuple with Charlie Chaplin's son and this other Rat Packer son. I don't know which one's. I don't really know the Rat Pack or Brat Pack, but whatever. But it's Charlie Chaplin's son and his best friend Eddie something something.
Okay.
And they're in a throuple. This was a cool effect that they did. That the effects throughout the movie and the cinematography and stuff are pretty cool. For the most part. Some of it's a little okay. I think I get what you're trying to do, but it didn't land. But this one was cool. They're having like their first three-way, and when she orgasms, the bed sheet turns into a waterfall.
Oh.
And I was like, that was pretty seamless. That's cool. I was like, climax, waterfall, something there. That's cool. Then they're having like a nice time being a throuple. They have those scenes where they're like drinking on the beach under the stars and promising to be in each other's lives forever. Then she gets pregnant and this is a thing too. Okay, I do not know why she does anything she does in the whole movie, but I do not know why she gets this first procedure. Because she's like, surely you guys aren't mad at me. And they're like, no, we're going to still be the Geminis together. That's the thing they said. Then the next thing she does is she calls someone and she's like, I need help. And they're like, don't worry, we'll take care of everything. We'll pick you up from your home first thing in the morning. Like, I'm not even using coded language there. That is the dialogue. Next thing we know, she's being carted off. And she's like, actually, no, I've changed my mind. I don't want to do this. And nobody cares. She's on the bed, or the chair thing, to get the procedure done. And she's like, no, please, I've changed my mind. And the doctor's like, hey, we're going to put you in the twilight sleep. And they inject her with something. And she's like, no. And they literally force this on her. And I don't know why.
Because this is the liberal agenda.
Really, though. I was thinking, why is this movie so, like... such a pro-life movie for no reason. Like, part of me was like watching it twice today, basically thinking like, okay, maybe I'm missing something, because I just I don't really care. I was like, Adrian Brody defended, he was like, the movie's supposed to be like a traumatic life experience, and I was like,
who wants to sit through a movie like that?
Like, on one hand, because, like, I was talking with Bob, and he was saying, like, a Serbian film or whatever. He was talking about how he sort of stands by some of the things they do just because of, like, the meaning, like, behind it, the metaphors. Like, he gets what they were going for. And I'm like, okay, I never saw the movie, but I can get, that sort of thing.
Right.
I don't really, I think, like, The Wall, Pink Floyd The Wall, that movie's, like, can be uncomfortable for people, but they're saying a lot of messy things, So I would, if they said something with this movie that was new and worth saying, I would get it.
Like, it's the whole point of the movie, just, like, look how much trauma people can go through. Like, yeah, we all know people go through trauma. We don't need to also experience it.
Yeah, because that's the thing too. But the thing is too, it didn't particularly evoke anything. Like, for sure, I don't think it's like really palatable. It's just, for me, I didn't feel anything by it, but I can see, like, just seeing someone being assaulted in various ways can be triggering for people. So I don't take it lightly, but genuinely, as far as feelings I had for the movie, was just like, if anyone does this kind of crap about me after I die, if I could, I would be upset. I would be grossly offended.
Yeah.
That's how I felt the whole time. 'Cause I was like, this is like so, like, this movie, you know, because it's Marilyn Monroe fan fiction, it just makes me think of the Billie Eilish fan fiction.
Oh,
Like,
no.
why do people think of people, although
Or the
it's
Harry
opposite.
Styles fan fiction.
Yeah, it's like, why do people think of their idols in, like, the worst possible light? I don't get it. But, okay, so they do that, and then they're not together anymore. I don't know why they broke up. I don't know. But they're not, the thruples no more. Next thing, she's on a date. I think more stuff happens, doesn't really matter. But she's on a date with Joe DiMaggio. And, you know, she's like, sometimes I wish I could settle down and just get away from it all. And he's like, yes, I'll do that for you, toots. And the kind of thing. And then we see her getting fan letters. She goes to this room with these 3 women whose job it is to read her fan letters. I don't know what this room was. I'm assuming... I think if you're, like, big on, like, the old Hollywood scene, you would just know what this room was, but I am not, so I do not know.
Okay, cool.
So, it's a room with 3 ladies reading your fan letters. First letter is like, oh my god, Marilyn Monroe, I love you, I'm gonna be blonde just like you. Another one's like, you slut, I hate you, get off my screen, you slut. It literally calls her like a slut twice in the same letter, and I was like, golly, this person was upset. Then she gets this 3rd one, and it's from her father, who's like, I've been watching you, and I think you're great, and I hope we can meet. I'm coming to see you soon. Your tearful father. And so throughout the movie, she's gonna get like 2 more letters from her tearful father. I don't know why he's tearful, but he is. He signs them that way, which is I thought that was such a silly way to end it, like for someone who hasn't been involved at all. Especially because now, like, more than ever, she's easier to find. If you would just, like, leave an address, she could just come visit you. But no, he's coming to find her. So then she's at this premiere, and then this woman is like, okay, after the premiere, someone's in the hotel waiting for you. And she's like, Daddy? And then the woman just goes, shh, like, and winks at her. And then she goes to sit down next to this guy, and she's like, oh, there's someone waiting for me. I wonder who it is. I don't know. I think this guy's like her agent, I believe, but it was dark in the theater, so I couldn't remember if we'd seen him before or not. But he's just like, okay, sit down and watch the premiere. Shush. And then she goes, and she's like, Daddy? And then Joe DiMaggio comes out, and he proposes to her. And it's so awkward, because she's just like, oh, yes, I guess. Literally.
This is not what I was expecting.
And she continues calling him Daddy, and at first I was thinking, like, oh, okay. I mean, I guess that's kind of awkward. Or she was like, oh, no. Because he's like, I'm right here, baby. Yeah. But I would be like, I guess it's awkward to be like, no, I meant like my actual daddy, not... Ugh, I'm kind of stuck in this. But then her next husband, she calls him Daddy, too. And I was like, oh, okay. That's
issues thing.
Yeah, that's what they're doing here. Because I'm like, where does her father end and Joe DiMaggio begin, I guess is what they're trying to say. But
I don't know why the lady who said there's someone waiting for you and she said, is it my dad? She just winked. Why didn't she just go, no?
Because Marilyn Monroe insists on saying Daddy. And she was like, yeah, I mean, if that's what you call him.
I don't know. You don't, that's so gross. You don't say that about your partner to someone else.
Some people do, though, which I think is very strange. I don't think you should. I think we've kind of, well, I don't know. I've seen some people just do that. And, like, I guess it just depends on, it definitely, first, I will say, I don't do it. So I couldn't pull it off. But there's some people who are comfortable enough with it that it just sort of slips out the same way like Sweetie or anything else comes out. And
it just seems like such a more like intimate pet name than like Babe or anything else that I don't think you should be like. It makes me it already makes me uncomfortable enough that it's become like a thing, like a slang term for your idols or whatever, like how people call Billie Eilish daddy. I'm like, can you not do that?
Yeah, I agree on that. I guess, but I just try not to yuck yums, but at the same time,
I don't want to yuck yums. I'm
part
just,
of it.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just saying I don't want to be a part of it. So could you not do it in front of other people?
Yeah, I would agree with you there. Okay, so their marriage, she's hanging out with some Italian women. And this is a thing that really, really bugged me for the whole movie that does not get addressed. Honestly, if the whole movie was exploring this discrepancy, maybe we would have said something more meaningful. Okay. So, throughout the movie, Marilyn Monroe, like, mentions all these things she read. Now, the real Marilyn Monroe, very well read, wanted to be a great actor, read up on drama, art, science, all that good stuff. Great. Okay. And I don't know if this is how she talked to other people about it. It's not really that, but there's like 2 or 3 scenes at least where she'll say something like, yes, this reminds me of classic literary work, da 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 da, and I think this, and they're like, you read? But you're so hot! How?
You're a nerd.
Yeah, basically. So there'll be scenes like where there's that, but then bringing back to this scene with, I'm assuming, Joe DiMaggio's family or something, and they're cooking, and she awkwardly holds a spoon like she's never seen one before, and she stirs it, she's like, oh, could I taste it? And then a woman hands her an egg, and then she's like, oh, is this for eating? Standing up, and they all look at each other like, what? And I'm like, why doesn't she know what an egg is? You read the wrong books, Marilyn. Forget about War and Peace. Learn what food is.
Maybe she's a mermaid.
Maybe. Because I'm just like, ma'am, why don't you know what an egg is?
It's like that BuzzFeed video of Cody covered it like so long ago, the guy that claimed to never have eaten fruit, and he was like, is this, I think it's a blueberry. It's like, shut up, you know what a blueberry is. That's the kind of vibe it gives me.
Maybe, yeah. Like, I was trying to think, as I was like, even if it was like a boiled egg they handed her, because like I couldn't really see, but like, I just don't know how she got, like, to this age without having heard of it. Like,
even if she's eating, like, fancy foods, or, like, say in the orphanage she only had porridge, but now that she's rich and famous, she's only eating fancy foods. You can make eggs fancy. She knows what an egg is.
Yeah, like, she didn't know, like, she's had omelets before,
right,
but she had no concept of where they came from.
So out of touch, this Marilyn.
As, golly, just like us, she ain't. But, yeah, that was such a weird, because I felt like that discrepancy, because again, like I said, there's so many other scenes where she's being, like, quote-unquote smart, but just in the conversation. Meanwhile, the rest of the time, life is just happening to her. Even when she's saying it, it's so timid and so, like, if it's all right with you, man, I did read. And so, like, it's so frustrating, but I'm like, look, I don't even care about how disrespectful that is to your marriage as a person. Why doesn't this person know what an egg is? So then, anyway, I really could go on a minute about that, but anyway, Joe DiMaggio, well, okay, I don't know if anything like this happened, and I also don't know why it happened, but Charlie Chaplin and Eddie Jr., or Charlie Chaplin Jr.
Yeah.
and Eddie something Jr. invite Joe DiMaggio to lunch, and they show him all these pictures. And I don't know if this is from a movie or if these are pictures they took, because I don't know, because she has her, like, old brown hair. So maybe these are just old. Oh, wait, actually, I do remember this, because she didn't, well, I don't know because of the movie, but actually, I do remember an interview because people were like, why'd you pose nude? And then the real Marilyn Monroe was like, I was hungry. And then they were like, oh.
See, iconic.
Yeah, so, like, that's, like, I'm assuming that's what these pictures were, but, because, golly, that's such a good answer.
It really is.
But but we don't even, no one asks Marilyn anything, so then,
I mean, she doesn't even know what an egg is, so how is she supposed to answer?
That's true. But, okay, so then they show this scene, and, like, Joe DiMaggio is pissed, and he's mad from the restaurant to the car ride home. And I was thinking, like, you're still this hot after, like, the whole ride. You didn't cool down a little bit. None. He's got more amped.
Oh, no.
And I was like, there aren't even really that many cars on the road yet. But anyway, they do this thing. It's like a shaky cam thing to show his rage, where the camera's like tightly on him as he's like zooming up the stage. And I get what they were going for, but it wasn't particularly like tense. I knew nothing good was gonna happen once he was face to face with Marilyn, but I wasn't like, it didn't build any tension for me.
Okay.
Anyway, he goes in the door, the bedroom, and she's sitting on the bed in her underwear, and she's topless, which only adds to her sadness. But then he slaps her so hard she falls to the floor.
Jeez.
And he throws the pictures at her, and he's like, "That's what you are, meat." And then she's like, "But I don't want to be." And he's like, yeah, something. But it's so weird because this is the cliff notes of this conversation. He's like, "You slut, I'm your biggest advocate. You should be going for better roles than this and stop being meat for the town." And like,
jeez.
I was like, you could have accomplished this without hurting her. Like, maybe you could have punched Charlie Chaplin Jr. and Eddie Jr. over there at the restaurant. Gotten this out of your system. But yeah, so then he's like, "Tell him you want better roles. Tell him your husband says so." Literally says, "Tell him your husband said so." And she's like, "Okay, I will." And then he's like, "Don't you know how much I love you, you stupid idiot?"
Oh my gosh.
I was just like sitting there, and I was like, this is a fictional woman's trauma, but I'm here laughing because this was so whatever it was. Then the next scene, like right after that, is, I don't know how many Marilyn Monroe movies have you watched any Marilyn Monroe movies?
Not really.
I watched like a handful. I have seen this one. It's from the movie The 7-Year Itch, and that is the movie that with the famous like white dress over the subway thing, and it's like flying up, and it's like, ooh, panties being worn. That movie, I don't remember enough of it. Watching this almost makes me want to rewatch it, because I remember I was the reason it's called The 7-Year Itch, not that this is particularly interesting, but I saw this movie years ago and it's paying off here. It's The 7-Year Itch. This guy's been married, and like the whole movie starts with like, since the dawn of man, when men have been married for 7 years, they get that itch to be a shithead about it. So the whole movie is, while his wife and son are away for the summer, or for 2 weeks or something, at their in-laws' house, will he cheat on her with Marilyn Monroe or not? That's the movie.
Oh my gosh, jeez.
And I don't remember, like, if he just told her he wasn't married or if he did and she thinks he's gay. Like, I don't know if there was, like, a twist or something. I remembered watching it and I was thinking it was, like, a cute movie, but, like, for the time. But, you know, it's fine. And, like, the scene is, like, really, like, it just kind of happens, and he's just like, oh, boy, why did I agree to go out with her? I'm gonna have to cheat if she keeps this up.
Oh, no.
Oh, jeez. It's, like, that kind of a vibe, the whole movie, if I remember correctly. But anyway, in this movie, back to Blonde, they filmed that scene. Director says cut. She's still standing over the thing, which I feel like maybe... for like a few pictures, but it just showed, it wasn't even slow-mo. The first time I watched this scene, I watched it at 1.5 speed, and it was still too long. Then I watched it again in real time. I was like, oh my god, this is excruciating. Because it's just her, like, doing her, like, Marilyn Monroe smile, while, like, this, like, a sea of men being like, awooga, ooh, 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 and, like, their mouths are so open. I saw so many tongues and mouth holes.
You know how people act.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to come at me with it was a different time back then, maybe.
I still don't think that men acted that way back then. Like, I feel like this is something that's been fictionalized, but I think that for the most part, men were pretty understated.
Like, even if the idea of, like, even if it is this sort of, like, frat boy mentality or, like, strip club mentality of seeing Marilyn Monroe's dress fly up and we see her panties, I don't think they really could have just cast in, like, some wolves and it would have been the same gist. That would have been even more creative, because then it would be like, man, men are beasts or something. But anyway, the sea of men, then you see Joe DiMaggio looking real mad. And then they show one thing, then they, like, show him coming up to her, but then they pan away from him hurting her again. We sort of hear him talking to her, but then it fades out a little, and this is our next message from Tearful Father, where he's just like, I was hoping I could meet your star athlete husband, but at least there were no children to bear the shame of this sham marriage failure, or something. And I'm like, at that point, you know what? I'm ripping up the rest of your letters. I do not care anymore. Like, you know, I don't even have a way to write you back, and you're just, like, commenting on the headlines of my life. Like, you don't have that right. Okay. Next point in her life. Stuff happens. She gets with Arthur Miller at this point, and she's auditioning for his play. There's a character named Magda. I don't know. But then they're having a sit-down conversation. She has some notes on the character she'd like to play, this Magda. And at one point, she really impresses him because she's like, oh, yeah, I think she's like, there's this scene, and, like, he's based this off of his, like, he really did love this woman. They never got together, but he was in love with her, and she died or something. And so then she says something, and then he's like, oh, you're right, she was illiterate. And then he starts crying, and she's just like, oh, like, she smiles in that way, like, oh, I said something smart. And I'm like, of course you did. You've been smart the whole movie. You just didn't know what an egg is. But other than that, you've known plenty. So anyway, they get together, and they have, like, they recreate a bunch of photos and stuff. The movie changes aspect ratio or whatever a bunch throughout the whole movie just to match the pictures, and you could have just recreated the picture without zooming in and out that much. Like,
seems jarring.
Yeah, I mean, I know that, like, for some people who are, like, sensitive to that stuff, I could see getting a headache from the movie just on that alone. But anyway, things are going pretty well for them. They have, like, I guess they went on a trip. I thought this was just their house or whatever. But she gets pregnant and she's going to, like, she's picking out flowers and, like, the garden or something, and her fetus starts talking to her.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, we go in and it's like, it's a little kid voice, and it's like, "You're not gonna hurt me like you did last time, right? What you did before?" And then she's like, "No, I didn't mean to." "Yes, you meant to. It was your choice."
Oh my gosh.
But it's a little kid voice the whole time. I just wanted to emphasize that it was like, it was your choice. I was like, shut up, movie. And then she's like, "That wasn't you. You're this baby. It's always me. It's always been me." And I was like, you know, it's funny. As pro-life as this movie wants to be, that's such a good pro-choice argument. It really is. Because at that point, so, like, maybe the kid will look different depending on the father or whatever, but the soul's the same. Right. She's giving this, so, like, if you get an abortion, the soul just boomerangs back to God, I guess, and he'll throw it back down or something later for the next one. So you can just wait till you're ready. Because it'll be the same baby.
Yeah, that's such a weird argument from a pro-life standpoint.
So maybe it's like, I forget what it's called, but you know when you're like, where you're like, I guess in this case, like, you'd be pretending to be pro-life, but really you're pro-choice, and you just, like, slip that in there.
Yeah.
There's, like, a word for it, but I don't remember. But anyway, then they have some friends, and, like, Arthur Miller's walking on the beach with them, and then he comes back inside to get Marilyn. But as he's leaving, they're like, "She's so cute. I love how well read she is." And then he goes inside, and Marilyn's feeling a little insecure. She's like, "They're here to see you, not me." And he's like, "You know they're here to see both of us." Oh, a bit earlier with the whole daddy scene, she was like, "Am I your good girl, daddy?" Apropos of, like, literally nothing. And he's like, "You're my good girl, darling." And I was like, ugh. One thing, I read up and they were like, oh yeah, she dated older men, but she was like 30, he was 40. And I was like, yes, that's an age gap, but I don't think that's
an older man.
Yeah, that's not like he wouldn't be, he was 10 when he had her. Yeah. Like, that's not really the gig. But anyway, he's not old enough to have been her dad. But anyway, she's going through his office at one point, and this doesn't, like, nothing ties into each other. But this is before I get to the end of their marriage. She goes to, like, his office, and she's looking at all the things he's written, and she's, like, so proud of it, but she looks at his typewriter, and there's this paper, and it's, like, a conversation they had where she's like, "You won't write about me, will you?" And he's like, "Why would I do that?" She's like, "Sometimes writers do that." And he's like, "I'm not like everybody else, and you're not
like other girls."
Yeah. But then, like, he's literally doing that. He's using that conversation in the typewriter. I don't know if he
very
really,
unaware.
You know, but he did. I was watching this Be Kind Rewind video about Marilyn Monroe and this movie he made for her last movie, The Misfits, which looks like, I probably wouldn't like it, but it looks like if you're into that kind of thing, it's probably fine. But he also, like, after they broke up, made this, like, play that was, like, blaringly about her. And I'm like, ugh. Was this, like, a nod to the fact that happened, or what?
Oh, maybe.
But, maybe. But it's just icky. So then, anyway, back to the beach. She's coming out with, like, this tray of appetizers, and then she trips, falls, and then she has a miscarriage. And that was true. That did happen. Okay. I don't think it happened like this, because first of all, maybe it, because no one was like there for this moment, I don't think, but it was very strange to me. She trips and falls, and she's like, "Oh, I'm fine," and then no one goes over to her.
Oh no.
And then she notices she's bleeding, and then she screams for help, and then they come to her. But I'm just thinking, like, not just because she's pregnant, although I feel like that adds to the reason to go over to her. But she fell! Like, that was a big fall! And she was, like, on appetizers. Well, there's a fork there. I don't know. But anyway, so then after that, then I tried to look up if there's any record of her being a diva on set, and everything said she was really late to shoots, but she wasn't like a diva. It said like she was never like a diva, but weird. She starts taking everything really personally, like everything. She starts screaming about how this one I didn't get, because it was like, I don't know, she's singing some song from some movie, and she's like, Jello Springs, you don't think I don't get that I'm the joke? And like, I didn't get what it meant. Bob was thinking maybe like Jello Springs are like boobs or something, but it was really hard to tell. But I also I couldn't even really like remember the lyrics of the song, so I don't know when she even said that in this, like maybe that was something else, or like a quote from the movie. But anyway, she starts like, so she has this freak out, and then like two guys like grab her, and they're like, it'll be okay, we'll bring Marilyn back in a minute, and then they start drugging her with like codeine and injecting her with all sorts of drugs.
Jeez.
And then and I was like, I understand she did drugs. She can't even choose to take drugs in her own movie. Like, why can't she decide anything? It was so strange, like, because it's not like the problem with this movie is the way it's filmed. I can see that it's kind of like armed itself in this way that like if you criticize the movie, it's like, oh well, you're just victim blaming, and it's like, I'm not, I'm you blaming because Marilyn wasn't like this. Even I know that, and I don't even know her. But and then okay, so then Arthur Miller's like, I just feel like ever since we lost the baby, we've been so distant. You're pulling away from me, and I'm like, I wonder why. You're just, and then he's like, all these drugs, I'm worried for your health, and she's like, whatever, and she just like, they're not together anymore. So then
okay, so sorry, going back a little bit, I found what Jello. It's Jello on Springs. Okay. And it's from the movie Some Like It Hot. Okay. And it's just one of the characters says, "Look at that! Look how she moves. So that's like Jello on Springs." Oh. So it's just like dancing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, either way, and this Marilyn was pissed about it. So she was mad. Which, again, that's weird, too. Because the vibe I got, like, okay, so in real life, she does talk about Marilyn in the third person sometimes in interviews. Mm-hmm. But it was, like, still... But she still knew that, like, she was in charge of her actions. Right. But in this movie, she's always like, why can't they see that Marilyn Monroe is an illusion? Norma Jean, I'm right here. I'm right here reaching out to you. And I'm like, look, girl, like, I don't know, get a new job. Like, why are you, like, it's not like, because we don't even see really a progression. She's a child, and then she's Marilyn Monroe. We don't see, like, them chipping away at the real her. We don't even really see them like, hon, if you want to make it in this biz, you're gonna need to make your hair blonde. None of that. We don't see anything that shows why she's lost Norma Jean. Her agent is like, I like invented you. But even that, like, she doesn't say like, and it's been a curse that you made it. Like, there's nothing, there's no reasoning for anything. But she's really like, Charlie Chaplin Jr., another guy, really knew, they saw Norma Jean and things like, she'll say things like this throughout like the whole movie. It's like the men in her life and their relationship to Norma Jean. At this point, she's getting more and more drugs, and this, okay, so like I'll start with the truth. So JFK,
Yes.
former president.
We all know him.
Yeah. So, like, there's speculation on whether or not they canoodled,
Right.
but, like, they were friends since he was, like, a junior senator. So, it was, like, for a while, if they were. Like, because they were seen in public together and stuff.
Right.
And I'm not saying that that's cool or not, but all I'm saying is I definitely don't think it was like this, where she gets super high on a plane that he arranged for her, and Secret Service grab her and literally bring her to him, like room service.
Jeez.
And then he's on the phone, barely can be bothered to talk to her, demands a blowjob, and then, because first he's like on the phone with this guy talking about like his reputation with other women and whatnot, and then she's just sitting there like uncomfortably like waiting for him to finish the call that's just not finishing, and he's just like kind of moves the phone when he's like, come on baby, don't be shy, and he said it like 3 times before just pushing her head onto his penis. I don't know, because she's kind of moving for a bit. I don't know if she was like sort of giving him a hand job when she first got there or not, but then she's giving him the blow job, and she's like, and we hear her thoughts, and I was like, okay, I was jarred because I was like, oh wow, we get to see how you feel about this. No. Lie.
False
misdirect. Because while she's doing it, her thoughts are like, what am I doing here? Did Marilyn bring me here? Why does Marilyn do these crazy things?
Okay, so
And I'm like...
they're trying to play into this, like, her mother was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia, so maybe it's more than just a mask.
Yeah, it's giving me Dark Betty vibes, and I'm not here for it. So, that happens, and then she leaves. Cue second forced procedure. With, I guess, JFK got her pregnant,
Jeez.
and they had it removed. And then, I'm trying to think, because then, right. So, at this point, she's kind of just, like, sad.
Yeah.
And she's been sad. She's been sad the whole movie. I'm trying to think of times she, like, laughed. She laughed while she was in the throuple.
Okay.
She looked like she was, like, surprised and in awe of the egg with Joe DiMaggio. And she had some sweet smiles with Arthur Miller. So there's, like, 3 different instances of being, like, sort of happy a little bit.
Okay.
Great.
But
after the miscarriage, and like again, I am not trying to devalue the pain that would come with a miscarriage. I just feel like that doesn't define a person's whole life. There's other things that happen to them, but in this movie, that is the beginning and end of her worth as a person, I suppose. Being hot, and will she or won't she have a child? Are the 2 things this movie felt were important about her. Which is so, like, anti-feminist.
It's so dated.
Sentence alone. It's so dated.
Why did we need this movie in 2022?
Like, yeah, because I was thinking when I was like, maybe if it was, because it's about Marilyn Monroe, it's so inherently disrespectful.
Right.
So it's hard to get past that for me. I don't really like any biopics, honestly. I'm not a huge... Sometimes I like them if I have, like, no clue about the person at all. you know, because
Yeah.
then then it just feels like it's a story.
Yeah.
You know, but then again, most biopics are still, at least the ones I've seen, are still more tasteful than this, where it's kind of clear. It's like, okay, so it probably didn't happen like this, but it basically, this is the gist of what happened. I get it. Kind of thing. But anyway, so Marilyn Monroe's super sad. She's getting so high all the time. And then she gets a call from Eddie something Jr. And Charlie Chaplin Jr. died. He OD'd.
Oh, no.
And then he's like, he gave me a lot of his stuff, but there's this thing, and he said it's for you, Norma. And they call her Norma, and it takes her back, but not really. She's like, I don't want it. And he's like, all right, I'm sending it to you. And I was like, man, no one cares.
No one cares.
No one cares at all. And I was like, why'd you even bother saying no at this point, man? So then she gets the package, and it's this teddy bear. And when she told, back in the past, when she was pregnant, and she told them when they went out of the restaurant, I did not think this was going to come back later, but there was a stuffed animal just like on the floor. It looked like it'd been run over twice. And she picks it up and she's like, this is a sign. And then, anyway, so I guess he kept it all these years, and he gave it in a box. This is the other thing that he gives her. It is a card, and she opens it, and it says, there never was a tearful father.
Oh, no!
The whole time, it was Charlie Chaplin Jr. just screwing with her for years.
Why?
I mean, there were conversations where he was like, if I could love anyone, it'd be you. But I'm like, but you could have just been with her. She, like, according to the movie, she never breaks up with anybody. They just leave, or she's just not married to them anymore. And then after that, she takes a bunch of pills and dies.
Oh.
That's the movie, Blonde. That is the movie. It ends with her having the big reveal that I didn't, because he, except for the one where he's criticizing her about Joe DiMaggio, otherwise it'll be letters where it's like, I'm coming to see you soon in person and stuff like that. And she's kind of been holding on to this dream of meeting him one day.
Just trolling her.
Just trolling her. Just a prank, bro. So that's the movie Blonde.
Truly terrible.
Yeah, I don't know why it had, like, it's so weird. The more I read about, like, her life as a person with agency, free will, that she exercises often, this movie is a disservice to that. To the people defending the movie, I don't think it'd be good even if it wasn't about Marilyn Monroe.
It's just
because
it's bad movie.
Because, like, the moral of it is, like, oh, if you hurt a child, that child will always be hurt forever.
Yeah.
And like,
life is tragedy.
And you have no say, but everybody else has lots of say, just not you.
Exactly.
And it's just, I think it's so sad, because I think about all the people I've ever encountered in my life. I've met people who have gone through some pretty rough things, and seeing them become strong, beautiful people on the other side, this movie spits on them. Says that they're impossible. They don't exist because of this. And, like, I'm tired I'm not, on one hand, I get when shows and stuff are like, being famous is a curse kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, I get that it's hard to be watched all the time. I think that as a society, it'd be nice if we could move away from, like, paparazzi stuff. Like, I do not care who's canoodling who.
Right.
I don't care who's fighting with who. Like, we have our drama dish in the Discord server. And, like, I don't know. I don't really think that that's, like, an issue because it doesn't really leave there.
Right.
Unless it's, like, you know, Shane Dawson grooming children parasocially or something. Which I feel like is worth talking about, but like...
But that goes... I think that goes beyond just drama. Like...
Yeah,
like you said, we don't need to know who's canoodling. Nobody cares. Like, divorces, new relationships, who cares?
Yeah, like, you know, we're all just trying to live our life. So on that end, I do sympathize with celebrities because, like, nobody cares what I do on a day-to-day basis. If they did, that'd be annoying. So, but at the same time, like, there's a reason she did it. She wanted to be an actress since she was young, and they don't really explore any of that. I don't even know why she bothers reading the books she reads in this movie, because we don't see her enjoying anything. Like, when she starts, like, getting high all the time, if we, like, could see her sitting on the porch and reading a book, at least it'd be like, at least that seems like a nice Sunday afternoon.
Right.
But I don't know. It's this whole movie, like, made me think about that. I watched a few reviews. Apparently, Spencer about Princess Diane.
Yeah.
No? Diane or Diana?
Diana.
Diana, okay. I did a report on her in the 3rd grade.
Oh. You didn't even bother learning her name.
Well, I did at the time. That essay's been lost. It's in my teacher's room somewhere. Or in the trash, more likely. But she held on to it. But it was actually pretty cool because we had to, like, make a doll, and my mom helped me, like, shave a doll's head.
Oh.
And we glued on, like, curly blonde hair to the doll. And she sewed, like, this dress for her.
That's cool.
Yeah. That was, like, probably the most well-received project I ever had because that was, like, the most parental help I'd ever had. Otherwise, I had to make it myself. And I didn't get the memo that, like, parents can just do your homework for you like every other kid I went to school with did. That was, like, I don't know. Was that the case for you when you went?
I feel like I had help with school projects, but it was never just done for me. And you could always tell the kids, like, especially science fair projects. I think that's a big one. You could always tell the kids whose parents just did their science fair project.
Yeah. Yeah.
And maybe they, like, held the hot glue gun or something. Like,
yeah.
But for me, like, it was, particularly in elementary school. After that, I was on my own. But,
yeah.
Like, in elementary school, I would do projects or whatever, and my mom would, like, help me by, like, giving me the materials or, like, coming up with the idea. If it was, like, for some reason in elementary school, I had a lot of school projects that were basically, like, art projects, and then you would have to write an essay about it. So she would come up with, like, the diorama that I was gonna make, basically.
Yeah.
But that was it.
It was so interesting because, like, and maybe this is improved. I don't know. Because, like, my school was fine, but they just did not, like, they didn't really have a gifted program. Mm-hmm. And it also didn't seem like they had enough gifted kids in general. Just who like, everyone was, like, mid, I guess, that I went to school with. Like, no offense, but, like, it was, in my class, it was, like, it was a pretty small school. So, like, in 3rd grade, there were 2 3rd grade classes.
Dang.
And of those, there were 3 gifted children, me and 2 other boys.
Dang.
And and then, so, for the gifted program, they we got this like special assignment, and they were supposed to be more. They just never got around to giving us a second one.
Okay.
But honestly, it left such a.
I think your school was just bad.
It's weird though, because we had a lot of things, like people came a lot.
People
and,
came,
like,
okay.
We had people came for assemblies. We had books and textbooks and things. And I learned a lot.
Evidence that Zach's school was good. They had books and textbooks.
And people came.
And people came to assemblies.
Yes. And not just to make us sell things. They did that too. But they also came to do... There's actually this one really woke assembly I remember. I think it was 3rd grade too. This was just a big year for me. Everything happened. But where they brought these people who like were... And they were doing these skits about different diversities things and stuff. But like... Nobody really got what was happening. Like, no, it's not that anyone was like laughing, but just afterwards, like, it didn't change anybody. But they talked about like being gay. I think they even talked about being trans at one point. It was pretty woke. Yeah. So anyway, regardless, we had to do this project where we make our own little kingdom, and we'll make like our castle, and we wrote a little report about like what would happen in our whatever. And and then like my dad helped me. We got like Costco boxes, and there was this one that was really pretty. It was for grapes, so it had all these like vines on the outside. So I used like that box, and like I painted an oatmeal. I used like real stuff around the house, and I made this castle. I think we bought like fake grass and animals. But for the most part, but I had to still arrange everything. And it was very... For being 8 and for being as not artistic as I am, I was super proud of this thing.
Okay.
Coming to school, and then these 2 boys' dad just had like a thing of cement.
Okay.
That he just made into like a square. And then they like used like a little like knife to carve in lines, and that was what they turned in, and everyone liked that one so much more.
Oh my gosh.
I was so mad. And it doesn't help the fact that they were really nice. They were like, I think your castle is really cool.
Aw.
It was sweet at the time, but it didn't help. But they were nice, good boys. Anyway, that was a nice cleanser. Hopefully you forgot everything I had to say about
I've already forgotten.
Great. Well, if you want to hang out with us, we have a Discord, and we're there.
Constantly.
You could be there too. Yeah. I mean, I have the phone app. So thank you guys for listening. This was I think this was actually pretty light, but the movie was rough. So thanks for listening to me dish about it. Remember to comment, like, and subscribe, because we all need friends. Okay, bye.
Bye.